A humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Sudan's Nuba Mountains. Since fighting began here last June, the government of President Omar al-Bashir has massacred, bombed, and starved the Nuba people in the name of quelling an armed rebellion. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been driven from their homes.
ما مشينا من تردون الدانات دقونا زدان احنا جرينا خشينا بالكراكير البخادي بقتلون بالأسلحة وباقي بضبهم بالسكاكين انت كان قبطوك دي الحي بضبهوك هاي النوبة ما بيلقوا سلطة تانية بيتي ما بيلقوا سلطة بياكلوا في دهارهم كله ما سنة.
You were running from a bombing or running from soldiers or what happened? I'm here in a refugee camp talking to Sudanese and hearing horrible stories about government attacks, ethnic cleansing, mass rape. This is the Yida refugee camp in South Sudan, and the people here are Nubans who've been driven out of their homes in stories that are so reminiscent of what began in Darfur in 2003, 2004. Elizabeth Coffey said Sudanese uniformed soldiers kidnapped her in December and held her for 23 days before she escaped.
يلا ما واحد ما داري مو سر يلا يتم بسكين يا يتم بسلام ده الجس بتاعنا ده اللي قاعدين مسؤولين زي أنا شفت بين.
New arrivals appear daily, some having walked for days and many half-starved. The Sudanese government has barred aid workers and journalists from the Nuba Mountains and from the surrounding state of South Kordofan. Sudan wants to conceal atrocities there, and it has been pretty successful at doing so. Are you afraid that Yida will be bombed or not? I decided to slip across the border to investigate for myself what is happening in the Nuba Mountains. We are in Sudan or in South Sudan?
We are now entering North Sudan, somewhere along this road.
My guide was Ryan Boyette, an American human rights observer who married a Nuba woman and makes the trip often. He drove me in his mud camouflaged vehicle to the border town of Jau.
Okay, this is Nimeri's house.
There I met Nimeri Murat, the local commander of the SPLM North rebel force. The rebels control much of the Nuba Mountains, and they're determined to continue to resist President Bashir. The local rebel commander has approved for us to take this road into the Nuba Mountains. He sent an escort to make sure that we're safe from Sudanese soldiers who were not far from that road.
You see the tank tracks?
Driving north, signs of fighting were everywhere. In November, Sudanese tanks attacked the town of Dar in an effort to close this road, the last lifeline to rebel-held territory. But the rebels fought them off and kept the road open. Oh, is that the family? Yeah. Still, okay. Sudan controls the air and regularly drops shrapnel-filled bombs right on these rebel areas.
So it fell right here and then it did that much damage to the truck.
As a result, many Nuba have abandoned their crops and thatched huts to seek refuge in the mountains. Near the village of Tabanya, I found many families hiding in caves.
And have you been able to farm some land?
No? Fatna Bilal was cooking the sorghum seed that she had saved for planting, and she worries about her kids.
Yeah.
Many other families are subsisting only on leaves and nuts.
What have you eaten today?
This family appeared to have no food whatsoever. While I was talking with them, the familiar drone of an Antonov bomber was heard overhead. Suddenly, everyone scrambled for cover.
I see the bomber up ahead. It's passed over. It's an Antonov bomber, and everybody has taken cover in these caves. They've learned the hard way that when a bomber is overhead, you run. When does that happen? That a bomber comes and everybody has to run? Every day? Every day you have to run and hide.
Families everywhere here do the same. Only some caves offer more protection than others.
And this child died of an Antonov bombing, but it was a few months ago, but the family has come in.
When a government devours its own people, there are no easy solutions. But we can't let Sudan get away with atrocities just because they're in a remote area with few witnesses. Soon, President Obama will face a decision about whether to intervene in some way to avert starvation in the Nuba Mountains. That evening, I learned that the bomber that had disrupted my interview had dropped a bomb just to the south. A truck carrying 4 injured people stopped on its way to a clinic 6 hours away.
This woman, the shrapnel hit her breast, cutting her breast and exposing her lung. This woman was hit in the back by a piece of shrapnel, and then there's one woman inside who has a foot injury from the shrapnel. So four women were wounded from the bombing of the Antonov today, all civilians, and they were hiding in the caves from the bomb, but the bomb still was able to hit them.
The world has Sudan fatigue and doesn't want to get involved. But if we avert our eyes, tens of thousands of people may die of starvation in the coming months.
When they're coming, no one knows that they're coming. It's not like a plane where you have time to get down. But these things come, and then all of a sudden there's a huge explosion.
And every day, some of the world's most impoverished people will encounter 21st century technology by being bombed. I'm hoping that woman's screams will prod our consciences. In the Nuba Mountains, for the New York Times, I'm Nicholas Kristof.